Okay, this is a very brief tutorial on the projector and its menus. And the first thing I wanted to show you is the remote control. This is the only device that you have to control the camera or the projector's functions. So you're going to want to learn this, and definitely you do not want to lose it. Just to point out a couple of buttons on the remote. This button over here with the 3 lines horizontally, that is the button you press for access to the menu. The return arrow you see on the right here, this is the exit menu button. And this is a little different than some other exits. Rather than taking you up one level in the menu, this button always takes you out of the menu. So if you make a setting change and you want to make another setting change, you need to re-enter. The only other buttons I'll point out for now are on the top of the remote control. You see these 2 buttons left and right. Those are for vertical keystoning, and I'll talk more about that in just a minute. And by the way, as you would expect, the use of all these buttons is explained in the user manual. Okay, now that we've got that, I'm going to zoom in up to the screen because we're going to look through the menu. So I've just pressed the menu button. The first thing you see is the ability to control the picture mode. And these first 2 settings, the picture mode and the color temperature, really are controlling the brightness and the color mix of the video, of the images that you're seeing. And I find these to be very subjective, and actually in my experience so far I've used different settings for different videos, for different movies. So I think you'll just want to play with this a little bit as you get familiar with the projector. The main one I want to point out on this particular page in the menu is the reduce display button. I talk about this a bit in the text of my review, but this basically allows you to have the projector at different distances from the screen and still fill the screen. Right now I have it set on 75%, but I'm going to enter this because you can see if you look at my images that are projecting up on that screen, I'm not filling very much of the screen because I've actually positioned my projector so that when I'm looking at 16:9 HD TV, I totally fill that screen. And these are 4:3 slides being projected, so I'm a little bit small relative to that, but I'm a lot smaller than I need to be. So I'm going to change this to 100%, and now you can see that I'm filling a much bigger percentage of the screen. And basically what this setting allows you to do is set your projector a little further away from the screen and still fill it up. It gives you a little bit of latitude on that. Okay, let's enter the picture, exit the picture mode. Now I press menu button again, and now I'm pressing the right button to go to the sound menu. And here again, this is fairly subjective, so I would say play with the settings, pick what you like. In my particular case, I'm using an external surround sound system, so I am not really using the projector sound. Although the projector sound in and of itself for such a small set of speakers does a pretty good job. The next menu choice is time. This basically allows you to set up a sleep timer or a time for the projector on its own to turn on or off and so forth. I haven't really used this menu item other than to set the date and time. Okay, this third menu page, I guess they weren't even quite sure what to call it, so they just called it option. And there's a couple of things here to point out. I, as you can tell, am an English speaker, so I've chosen the English for my language. This button down here, the rotate, this is for the somewhat unusual case where because of where you have the projector, you need to change from a frontal image. For example, in some cases, people might set the projector up behind the screen and do a rear projection. So in that case, if you want to do a rear projection, this is the menu setting you'd go after. The main one I want to point out is because I think it probably affects most setups is the keystone option. Again, I explain keystone in more detail in my written comments. But keystoning allows you to adjust for the fact that your projector isn't pointing exactly at the center of the screen. And if I enter this, there are two keystone adjustments. The horizontal keystone is the adjustment that you can make for the situation where your projector isn't right exactly at the center of your projection field. And so right now it turns out I'm a little bit off center, so I have mine set for -3. But if I change that setting by pressing the menu button, you can see that I begin to get some distortion left to right on the screen. And so what the horizontal keystone correction allows me to do is to adjust that so that it's square on the screen. Now let me go back to where it's supposed to be for me. Almost there. Okay. Now the vertical keystoning is, I suspect, a control that almost everybody's going to use, because it's very rare that you'll be exactly pointing at the vertical center of the screen. So, for example, in my case, my projector is a little bit low relative to the screen center. And let me go to 0. Keystone correction, so you can see I have a lot of top to bottom distortion in the picture if I set it at 0, in other words, no adjustments. So in my case, in order to get the picture square relative to my screen, I need a +10. And again, that particular vertical adjustment is something that I think you'll use in almost every setup. Okay, let me exit out of that, go back to the menu, and I think we've been through the whole deal, the time, the option. That just takes me back to picture, and I can start over again on these choices. Okay, that is my quick tutorial on going through the menu.